This is for the 5 best neighborhoods in Chicago. Obviously, it's all subjective to certain people. West Loop does have lots of great modern new restaurants and architecture, but it is not going to be on this list. So let's get right into it. Number 1, as most of you would expect, Lincoln Park. Lincoln Park just has so much to offer, from one of the oldest zoos in the country to a varied style of architecture. You've got DePaul University there, so you've got like a vibrant college town feel within a huge city. The neighborhood just has something for everyone, whether you're into shopping, eating out, nature, the lakefront, whatever you want, it's there. The mix of historic charm and modern amenities makes it ideal for young professionals all the way to families. To get the real feel of Lincoln Park, I mean, just go there. Walk along Armitage, walk along Clark, see all the boutiques, the restaurants. Oz Park was just redone, and you can do anything from like tennis lessons to softball games to running clubs to, you know, like wine festivals. There's just so many things to do. So let's talk about the real estate market in Lincoln Park. It is consistently one of the most desirable, if not the most desirable neighborhoods in Chicago. So the prices definitely do reflect that. So you have a mix of housing options. You can have a condo in a vintage charm building to a brand new construction single family house. Since Lincoln Park is in a prime location, there's a ton of demands. Prices reflect that. If you're getting a condo on the cheaper end, expect to pay $400,000 all the way up to $1.5 million, of course, depending on size, finishes, etc. For a single family home, I mean, at least $1 million and going up to $5 million or above. And there are big premiums for things like being a new construction, being closer to the lake, being in prime streets. Next up on the best neighborhoods is just north of Lincoln Park, Lakeview. Lakeview also is very walkable. I was just passing through there a couple days ago, also by Clark Street, Diversey, that 6 corners over there. And there's just so many people walking around because there's so much to do, so much restaurants. The vibe there is also very, very energetic, and you'll see like the bars and restaurants be popping on the sidewalk, people eating al fresco, and then, you know, you've got Diversey Harbor, you've got the extension north from Lincoln Park, also a lot of nature, open fields, the lakefront, you've got the Diversey driving range, and there's nice, you know, you can eat near the lake, but also it's just super walkable. I call Lakeview one of the more best starter neighborhoods for Chicago because it's got a little, don't hate me here, but like mini New York type of feel where, yeah, it's just super walkable. Like, you don't need a car. I would not recommend a car if you're living in Lakeview. You know, obviously make sure you can get to work, but I mean, you got the train, you've got buses, everything that you really need is over there. And within walking distance, pretty much anywhere there, you can walk to so many restaurants and stores and basically everything you would need. So let's talk about the housing market in Lakeview. In Lakeview, the housing market is also in strong demand. Though it comes in a tad cheaper than Lincoln Park. So if you're looking for a condo, those will start around $300K. You can find cheaper if you want to live in like maybe like a garden unit or something less updated, but generally starting at 300 and going all the way up to $1 million plus, obviously depending on your, you know, level of finishes and location. You know, I sold a huge condo there that was like 3,000 square feet for, it was only around like a little over 500,000, almost 600,000, but it needed to be updated. Well, I mean, it didn't need to. You could have lived in there as is, but most people would update it, even though they didn't even put that much into it. So there are values to be had there just from experience. Single family homes can start at around 800,000. I mean, of course, you could probably get maybe something cheaper if it needs a lot of work or it's in a less desirable area, but I'd say about 800,000 and all the way up to $1 million range. Obviously, it depends on location and level of finish, but yeah, generally around there, 800 to, let's call it 2 million for a single family home. And number 3, we have Wicker Park, one of my favorite areas. You know, I've known about this area ever since I was a kid. I've seen it change so much. When the movie Wicker Park came out, that brought about a lot of change. If you want to see, watch the beginning scenes of that movie, and yeah, they're using a VHS, so that shows you how old it is. The location is incredible for transportation. You got the blue line right there that takes you to, of course, the two gems of Chicago, downtown Chicago and O'Hare, to go other places, and it's so convenient. I mean, when you live in other cities and you have to drive to the airport, and if there's traffic, or even in Chicago when there's traffic, it's kind of a pain to take the expressway or an Uber to go to the airport and be sitting in a car for over an hour. You can take the train, you're right there, you don't have to worry about traffic. So Wicker Park's reputation is as like a hipster place, super artsy, and you know, it definitely was more so before the area started developing rapidly. But you know, as the cycles go, you have like the starving artists, the hipsters, but then as things develop more, you know, you've got what it is now, like, you know, you could go to the young professionals, yuppies, young urban professionals, you got the young couples, and then the stroller crowd. And Wicker Park is very, very much, you know, you definitely still get some of that hipster vibe, but not as much as before. But there's tons of cool places to go. The main epicenter of Wicker Park is really close to the actual park, and it's the six corners of Damon, Milwaukee, and North Avenue. It's really cool. You've got the Roby there, awesome rooftop with a great view. And then just so many shops, restaurants, pretty much everything you'd want to eat or be able to eat is within walking distance of there. Yeah, you could pretty much literally walk to anything that you need. I personally like very much. So the real estate market in Wicker Park is very vibrant, just like the community there. And you can get a wide range of properties because there's homes there that were built in the 1800s. There's always like a new construction. For prices, condos will start around $350 and then can go up to well over $1 million. For single family homes, I mean, they can start around $900K and go all the way up to over $3 million, $4 million, especially if it's like a double lot type of property, newer construction. You can find some deals and you can find some really baller places. Next up, you have the Gold Coast. Gold Coast is an interesting area because it has so much old world charm, but also a lot of modern, you know, skyscrapers and things like that. It's very eclectic and very cool, and you know, a lot of people love the Gold Coast. One cool thing about the Gold Coast is you'll have like old school mansions that, you know, really take you back in time. Just really interesting, so much character. And then you have high rises with just spectacular jaw-dropping views of, you know, Lake Michigan and the city. And if you get high enough, you can actually see across to the other side of the lake, which is pretty cool when you do that, because normally you cannot. So real estate in the Gold Coast is one of the most sought after markets in Chicago, if not the country. You know, the zip code, the average earned income per household is rather high compared to Chicago, and like I said, the whole country. So prices can be high, but the main thing is you have such an eclectic selection of, you know, historic brownstones, mansions, modern high rises, you know, even condos with character. So you have so much to choose from. It's a prestigious neighborhood, and with its location, it has a bright future that's only gonna get more and more prestigious. Since the Gold Coast is a very dense area, condos are the prevalent type of housing here, and those can range in price from, you know, maybe on the low end, 600K, all the way up. I mean, there's some like really elite condos. I'm sure if you see any type of Chicago real estate, like luxury real estate, you're gonna see some condos in the Gold Coast, and those could be 5 million and up. So there is a huge range in the quality and price of the condos in the Gold Coast. Obviously, the general rule is the more height you have, the more expensive it's gonna be. Finishes, of course, and square footage. One other thing to watch out here is HOAs, and well, I mean, taxes everywhere in Chicago, but generally the closer to downtown and the closer to the lake you are, the higher those are gonna be. So this is close to downtown and close to the lakes. So you are gonna have higher carrying costs than in other neighborhoods of Chicago. Single family homes here are more rare, generally on the older side, so they're like more historic. Last but not least, and I know this is gonna be a controversial pick, but if you caught the intro of this video, West Loop does have lots of great modern new restaurants and architecture. It is not the West Loop, it is the OG Loop. Most people don't think about the Loop in terms of a place to live. But now that a lot of the work and offices have been transferred to the West Loop, the Loop now actually doesn't have the same hustle and bustle that it did before, with a lot of the work from home and offices moving elsewhere. So it's actually a really cool neighborhood to live in with, you know, your downtown Chicago. What tourists come to see from all around the world, you get to just see on your way to getting a cup of coffee in the morning. It's just so cool. Obviously, the real estate market in the Loop is very diverse because you have some high-rise buildings that have been there, you know, for over 100 years. And then you have modern new skyscrapers with insane amenities, you know, indoor, outdoor pools, pickleball courts, movie theaters, filming studios, music studios, art studios, huge gyms that rival any other gym out there. And it's all on, like, you know, the 47th floor, rooftop decks, of course. So there are some quiet areas in the Loop, little pockets, but generally it's gonna be condos and high rises. Let me know if you have any other questions, or if you live in any of these neighborhoods, let me know your pro tips. And of course, if you got any value from this, if you could give it a like, it's free, unlike real estate, and would really help the channel. Small, just getting started. So anything you can do, of course, subscribe, hit that bell. But if you could just at least give it a little like, takes 1 second, totally free, way easier than buying real estate. And if you have any questions, definitely get in touch, and I'm here to help. See you on the next one.